Okay, can you tell today is going to be a very different show? And I am so pumped. I can hardly stand it. So I'll just tell you briefly, you know about me. I'm not going to make this about me. The only thing I want you to remember about me is, yes, I do leadership development workshops. Hire me. That's the only thing you need to know. Let's get into the show, okay? Oh my gosh. I am so excited to have someone with me today that obviously is a chef. So I am trying to emulate. And you know, if you followed me for very long, that my passion is cooking. So this is just going to be an awesome, incredible show. I've got lots of questions. I wish we had a whole hour. Let me just tell you how I got to know Chef Brother Luck, who is an award-winning from age, I think, 16 or 17. We're going to talk about that. Chef. He has won awards all over the place. He actually is known for one thing, for beating Bobby Flay, which we're going to talk about. So let me just give you a heads up on this. I got to know this man in a very interesting way. You know that I love to drink red wines. I like any wine, but particularly reds. Austin Hope happens to be one of my favorite wineries. So we get our amount of wine that we order regularly, and in it is this. Can you see that? I don't want you to see my face. I want you to see this. It was Chef Brother Luck. Yes, that really is his name. It's got his picture, and it's got a bio, and on the back is a recipe. And I found that fascinating. Well, you know me, I'm curious. That's my middle name. So I figured I'd just try to find this man. And I did. And then I found out this man on the show, Chef Brother Luck, yes, that's his real name, has this book. Can you tell that I liked reading it? That's what the show is about. So you just stay tuned, okay?
Welcome to our podcast, Doing It Right. This podcast reveals authentic stories from successful leaders doing it right. It's about their journey to become a leader, their choices, motivations, and lessons. In essence, how they built successful personal brands. Your host is Valerie Sokolosky, author of 8 leadership books and nationally known as an authority on executive presence and personal branding. Let's get started. Here's Valerie.
All right, welcome back. I want to welcome my guest today, just giving you a little bit more information because I want to set this up to say this is no ordinary man. This is a man who grew up in the hood, and he became a world-famous chef. Wait till you see and hear his story, and I'm just going to welcome Chef Brother Luck. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Man, what an amazing intro, and I'm glowing from ear to ear just hearing you talk about, my story, my book, everything. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
You are so welcome. And I don't know you. I do know that you have 3 restaurants. I don't know how you've taken the time to do this, but we'll get right into it. I may talk fast because there's so much I want to talk about. All right. Well, first of all, I like to cook, and I have a pretty special chocolate caramel brownie recipe. Would you like it?
I would definitely like it. Christmas is coming.
Okay. Chef, your story is just incredible. And before we get into all the depth of it, I just have a quick question as another person that loves to cook. How do you get your mind to come up with all these recipes? Because I'll tell you, and admittedly, I can't do that. I have to have a recipe. And so, when you get in the kitchen and your book talks about it and you're doing all these things and you have from age, 16?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Age 16 I started.
How does, and we're going to get into that in just a minute, how does your mind do that? How do you do that? Just come up with things?
Yeah. I think the important piece of anytime you're talking about creativity, you have to have a baseline or some type of foundation, right? You got to refer to the basics, the classics. So, when it comes to cooking, we learn classical French cooking. This is how you make a bisque. This is how you make a roast. This is how you reduce the sauce and make a beurre blanc. Once you understand the basics, you can then start to insert creativity or new flavor profiles and reapproach it with inspiration. So I think it's whether it's a cocktail or it's a dish, I'm going to always refer back to a classic. If I'm thinking vichyssoise and I'm thinking chilled potato and leek, well, I know potato and leek work well together no matter what I do with it. So now I can take that and turn that into a dumpling, and I can turn that into a potato and leek pierogi, and play around with a cold sauce that might be the vichyssoise element of it. So it's about, taking a classic and reinventing it.
Do you give cooking lessons?
I do give cooking lessons when I have the time.
But I have to come to Colorado Springs where you are, don't I?
I do a lot of them online too. So, I love to teach. Teaching, I've had great mentors throughout my career, and I've tried to emulate them and be like them. So I love to teach. I love to share what I know. It's crazy now, the platforms. I mean, having a TikTok of me teaching someone how to dice an onion gets 5 million views. I'm blown away by the places that people are learning from.
Well, you're amazing. You're amazingly famous now as a chef, as an entrepreneur, as a television personality on all the other chef shows. So let's go back and just tell us the story about Brother Luck. It's fascinating.
Where to begin?
Yeah.
I'm the fourth, which is very special. I'm Brother Luck the fourth. So to carry on that name is to carry on the generations of the men before me. So I'm very proud of that. Brother was a nickname in our family. I carry the Marcellus Haywood Luck, which was our actual name. My father was the first one to legally change his name to Brother. So when I was born, he named me legally Brother Marcellus Haywood Luck the fourth. So it's very special because it is a family name. Our family's Creole, so French origins, African origins. My mother's Cajun, so you've got this beautiful Louisiana culture stewing there. But my brother and I were raised in California, and we were raised in the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, Vallejo, and it's just life comes at you quick, and you never know what the 24 hours is going to give you. And you have to take it. You have to embrace it. You have to adapt to it. You have to evolve. And, my story is made up of hardship, but then perseverance.
And you say that so eloquently and as if there wasn't a lot going on. Tell us a little bit more, because there was a lot going on, brother.
Yeah. My father passed away when I was 10 years old, and it was sudden. It was quick. He was sick, and, he passed away within that next day. It was very fast, and nothing was set up for us. There was no life insurance. There was no income. My mother, taking on two boys, 10 years old and 7 years old, she did the best she could. And she didn't have a lot of support. She didn't have a lot of family. She didn't have an education to rely on. She didn't really have a career to fall back on. So, we had to survive. And, when you're surviving in a very urban environment, life is hard. And, I became a product of the streets. I became a kid who was fascinated by the people on the corner, the pimps, the drug dealers, the gangbangers. These were the people with money. These were the people with respect. These were the people with power. And I wanted to be in their company. Mm-hmm. And these were some of the bad mentors that I had growing up. But they taught me some life lessons.
That goes to who is a role model. And so often it is and should be, as well as the mother, but for a boy, the father. So keep going about your story. He died. You were young. It was fast. You were on the streets. What does that look like? What did that look like?
Well, I think you're surrounded by violence. You're surrounded by a constant mindset of, what is the hustle? How do I come up? And just living in that fast-paced life of trying to make a buck, trying to find food, getting into whatever was entertaining and not questioning whether it was right or wrong. These were the hardships. But when I was 16, I was moved to Phoenix by a friend of the family, and I got into culinary. I took a vocational program with this high school, and they kind of set it up as like, you have the ability to go learn a skill, because it doesn't seem like college is something you want to do. And I took culinary arts. I figured it was free lunch and I'd probably get to meet some girls. And it was that simple. What I didn't expect was these grown men to become my new mentors, to teach me discipline, to hold me accountable, but also to encourage me. I never wanted to be a chef until they told me I was good at cooking, and I believed them. And I became fascinated by that attention. I wanted that compliment again and again and again, which I chased for a long time in my career, was the validation of my superiors.
We all want validation, don't we?
Absolutely. I think it's natural for, wanting that pat on the back, wanting that attention, wanting somebody to console you, somebody to applaud you. It feels good. And I think, we've seen that with social media and the serotonin levels that you get out of, seeing those likes and seeing those blue check marks. I mean, these are natural human instincts, but it's easy to get lost in because no one can validate you except for the reflection in the mirror. That's where you have to validate yourself.
That's actually, and we didn't talk about all of your top takeaways of life, but in going through the book, let's see how many I have listed, brother. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and more of those
Wow.
things that are lessons that you don't call them lessons learned, but you sure talk about them. And then you ask, which I thought was awesome as an author, the way you end each chapter, asking the reader to answer some questions, which is very, very challenging, some of them. And you talked in there about validation, and your words were, stop chasing validation at work. How many people do that, brother?
Yeah, and we get lost in it, right? And then we sacrifice everything for the job, and we're losing connection to family. We're losing connection to our personal lives. We're losing connection to having a life. And we're taught with this mindset of work-life balance, which I don't think exists. I think it's just balance. You have to lose work and life to find balance. It's got to be one. You can't have this alter ego of who are you. I'll never forget my wife asking me, am I talking to chef or am I talking to brother? And that bothered me. I didn't like that.
Ooh, that's pretty powerful that Tina says. Tell us about your wife.
She's a queen. I worship the ground she walks on. I'm enamored by this strong, powerful, amazing woman who is just doing great things. And we've been together 22 years at this point. There's no new stories, and she's my best friend. So, our relationship is built on that friendship first and foremost. And she's my greatest supporter. She's the person who makes me feel like I can take on the world, but she's also the person that humbles me and makes me walk sideways through a door where my head gets a little too big.
Does your head get big?
It doesn't, but she says it does.
Well, I go there because you were very clear in your book, and I loved how you kind of layered it down, and you started by saying, in essence, don't let pride leads to, and then that leads to, and kind of go through that thought process, starting with pride leads to, you ended it with humility is really the bottom line.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like we cannot get caught up in the fact that, you're greater than, because that pride will get in the way of your perseverance. And I think there's always somebody better. There's always someone who's done more homework. There's always someone who's more prepared, who has more experience. So what's the point of being cocky if there's someone better than you? So we have to stay humble in whatever we're pursuing, whether it's a skill, it's an art, it's a craft. It's business, it's life. We have to stay humble. We have to stay curious. I love that phrase of, be curious, approach life with a curiosity. I ask a lot of questions instead of giving a lot of statements because I get a lot more out of the discussion.
That is so fascinating because that's what coaching is all about, is learning to ask they call it powerful questions. And I remember when I was getting the certification, I'd already been coaching for a whole lot of years. Then you had to go through the ICF certification. Okay, I got that badge. but I remember they kept talking about powerful questions, powerful questions. And I said one day to one of the gurus, what do you mean? Powerful question. Basically, it's just good open-ended questions.
Mm-hmm.
How does
Yeah,
that?
I love those. I think young managers, they get into leadership positions and they want to lead. They want to give directives. When you look at the most powerful people in the world, they sit around these boardrooms with these great minds and they ask questions. What do you think? How should we approach this? Where should we go with this? What's your opinion? This is how you gather data to make educated decisions.
Yeah. So now, not only are you famous, you're a leader, you're an entrepreneur, you're a chef, you're a business owner, you're a lot of things. You're a leader. My question to you is, how do you show up as a leader? What's your style? What would people say you're like as a boss?
Yeah, I've been a leader since I was 19. That was my first management position, and I was in charge of 50 plus employees as a very young person. Wow. So I couldn't lead with experience. I couldn't lead with the aggression or assertiveness. I had to lead with education. I had to ask a lot of questions. I had to be willing to do the work. I had to lead from the front and be the example. So I think when my staff would describe me, I'm very involved. I'm very of the mindset that my staff don't work for me. I work for my team. And I like to stay in that because I'm earning their trust every day because they believe in me. They've said, yes, I'm willing to join you and support you. And I have to earn that every day. So I try to teach a lot of my staff that same portion of it, but it is through education. I think education can always be sought after. And, I've had positions where I didn't know everything, but I would go home and I would study before the next shift and I'd come in with the answers. And, that's just proper preparation.
In your book, brother, you said, I thought it was hilarious. You said, basically that being a chef is a team. And you talked about how you lead in the book and how you've got your teams. And there's lots of pictures, which I love, all these pictures of you actually cooking and putting the little special things on the dishes and your wife and so forth. I have a question. Remember the movie Ratatouille?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the bad guy was a chef who yelled a lot. Are you a yelling chef, and is that what it takes?
No, yeah, it's funny. I had a chef recently say, well, chef, I probably just need to be more aggressive. And I say, no, I don't think it's about being aggressive or being loud or screaming to get your point across. A lot of the times we emulate what we know. And most of us worked for harsh leaders. Especially earlier in our careers. So you emulate that until eventually you become confident with who you are and your leadership style. Me personally, I feel like if someone can invoke that emotion out of me, then they have power over me, and I don't like that. So I'm very in control of my emotions. I can't control other people. I can control myself. Mm-hmm. So I'm very one temperament pretty much throughout the day. And, it's very solemn. It's very stone faced sometimes. I call it resting chef face. But I have to be aware of it, and sometimes it's intimidating. Like I'm 6'2", 260 pounds. Like I'm a big guy. So I think when people kind of see me just stone faced, it's intimidating, and I have to be aware of that as well. But I'm not a screamer. I'll never let someone control my emotions. Because that's power, and I don't think we should ever give that kind of power away.
How did you learn all this? How did you come to a sense of peace and coming out of the hood? And in the book, you talk about all the abuse that you had and dealt with, you and your brother.
Yeah, I think I've seen enough life to understand the pain of life, to know loss, to know death. More than once, more than enough. And we have we have the same 24 hours. So it's how you choose to live that 24 hours. Life is short. Tomorrow is not promised. And we have to really make our impact. So when I look at the people I've lost, the people that are no longer here, I'm so aware of what am I leaving behind. And I hope it's a great legacy of people that I've inspired through my demeanor, through my persona, through my mindset. It has nothing to do with my ego.
But you have to have stress, brother. How do you, particularly since I've played around with being a chef, the stress, I can't even imagine. How many restaurants, and name them, please, in Colorado Springs do you have?
Yes, we have I have 3 locations. I have 4 by Brother Luck, which is a full service restaurant focused on Southwestern food. I have Lucky Dumpling, which is a Asian fusion concept, and another full service restaurant. And then I have the studio, which is my private space where I entertain small groups. So as far as stress, yeah, of course stress is there, but it comes down to my calendar. I have to manage my time. I have to schedule my life, not just my work. I have to schedule my life. When is date night? When are we traveling? When are we making time to do something for us? When am I making time to do something for myself? And then I have to find those things of what I'm doing for myself. I like to play golf. So I play golf once or twice a week. That's a good checkout for me to have 3 to 4 hours of disconnect. But I have to get up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to be able to go do that. So if I want to get that on my schedule, then I've got to go to bed early enough to get up early enough to do that so I can work that into my day.
That's common sense. Easy to say, hard to do.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. What do you like to cook? What do you like to eat?
I love cooking gumbo. It's a special dish. It's a nostalgic dish for me. It reminds me of family. It's a very layered dish, which requires a lot of time and technique to build flavor. I love that about a good dish. What do I love to eat? I love eating Asian foods. Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, Thai, Filipino. I love traveling through that part of the world and getting to understand the cuisines and the stories and the people and the thought process. So that's a big part for me.
So you've traveled so many places and you've made such a name for yourself. Does uncertainty ever creep in?
Of course, I'm my own worst enemy. For a long time, I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I couldn't look myself in the eye. I wasn't confident in myself. I think that insecurity is shared by so many, but a lot of us hide it because we have to be on point. We have to be the leader. We have to be the boss. We have to run the show. We have to be the head of household. Whatever it is, you kind of shove that down and kind of work through it, but it doesn't go away. Ignoring the problem doesn't make the problem go away. And at some point, you've got to realize that you need an outlet for it. You need to talk about it. And talking about emotions, talking about feelings, talking about insecurities does not make you look weak.
Yeah. That's really interesting that you said that. In that, so many times in my coaching practice, there are leaders who feel like they can't be vulnerable, that they need to have all the answers or at least seem like they do. And I'll never forget, for an example, a company that was going through a merger. And to a good point, this man knew better than to act as if he knew it all and had his act together. And he literally would have town halls every week. And 3/4 of them at the beginning were, I'm just here to say, I still don't know. That's being vulnerable. Because
many of us don't know.
Right?
I said, yeah, many of us don't know. We don't know. But it's okay to say you don't know. Just be willing to do the work to find the answer and do the reps to become proficient at that skill.
Very true. This whole thing leads me to ask about the imposter syndrome. That's the term now, the imposter syndrome. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't think I've ever looked at myself as an imposter. I think it's more of a lack of sense of belonging. I don't feel like I'm allowed to be in these rooms. I don't feel like I'm supposed to be in these rooms. This is my own victim's mentality that I've created for myself. And I've put myself into a cage to where I'm scared to say yes. I'm scared to explore the great things of the world. I think the things that I didn't grow up around, why not be able to achieve them? Why not be able to say that you've earned an income, or you own properties, or you travel to these places and do these things? That there's no reason why we have to stay in this victim's mentality. And I think the imposter syndrome is kind of where that's coming from. It's a lack of, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not allowed in here.
That's, to your point, that is something that I hear a lot. And I've felt, which is, well, do I deserve? Is this something I need to act differently when I'm a part of? Or why me? Well, why not me? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've struggled with that, being biracial, right? My father's Black, my mother's white. And that's two worlds. That's two different worlds. And I've never felt like I belong to either. So, you don't feel accepted on either side. So you kind of have to act a certain way. So eventually you get to the point where you don't care what either side thinks. You're just you. I can't change my father. I can't change my mother. This is who I am. This is my skin tone. And you can like it or you can dislike it. That's your choice. But I think, you don't like me, you don't like yourself. Like that's
I'm
so a likable person.
I like me, right?
But then, there was a part in the book where I talked about being at Aspen Food and Wine and being invited to this high profile celebrity chef event where I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like I should even be in the room, even though I had a ticket. And running into Marcus Samuelson, someone who's given me a lot of good advice over the years, him saying, brother, it doesn't matter how we all got to the top of this mountain. We're all here. So the fact that you're standing here having this conversation, it doesn't matter how you got in the door. You're in the room. You're on the top of a mountain right now. We all came up different paths. And I love that analogy because it really gave me some comfort to know, like, it doesn't matter how you got there. You're there. So embrace the moment.
Now, see, that in itself is such a great message for people who are striving to get to the next level, or striving for that next promotion, or striving and striving and striving and striving. And when do you get to the point where you just allow yourself to just relax with that?
I think you have to remember your long-term and short-term goals. What are you chasing? What are you achieving? How do you define success? How do you define happiness? Because we get so lost in chasing our careers, we're unhappy. We're not successful, even though we are, with a title, with an office, with a salary, with benefits. You're not happy. And I think that those are those moments where you have to kind of take that step back and look around and appreciate where you are and what you have, because your dreams of 5 years ago are realities today most of the time.
What would you say to an inspiring young person like yourself who did not have the wherewithal from family or whatever? And in today's world, which is, let's face it, very difficult, very different. My children and I and you grew up maybe in a world that didn't have as much dissension, and I'll stop at that. What would be your advice?
I think it's important, especially for young people right now, to understand that there is only one you. That recipe can never be recreated. I don't care how many times I take those ingredients, I cannot recreate that special you. And you cannot measure yourself against someone else. When you see these greatest hits that are getting posted on these social medias, these are the greatest parts of their day. This is not the bad parts of their day. So it's such a small piece of it. So you can't measure yourself to other people. You have to learn to love you. You have to learn to accept you, to be proud of you, to know that because there's only one you, you're already unique. And no one can co-sign that. No one needs to co-sign that. You have to co-sign yourself.
Well said. So well said. And you said to me in the pre-interview, brother, you need people and people need you. That was the second piece of it that I thought was so great. You need people. We got that. Check. But then you also quickly said, and people need you.
Yes. It's so necessary. We have to be a part of a pack. And when you look at a predator, they want to separate their prey from the pack, because when you are alone, you're an easier target. Ooh. So don't get separated from your pack. The enemy is chasing you and they want you by yourself. So when you put up these walls and you're on that wall on the other side of it by yourself, you become an easy target. And we have to remember that, not only do we need people, you need to be there for someone else.
Beautifully said. Being there for someone else, and also telling your story. We talked about that, about, if you don't tell your story, people are going to miss things. And when you talked about it, your words were, your story can be, actually maybe from this book, I don't remember which, but your story can be somebody else's hope. I just really liked that. Talk about that a minute.
Yeah. I learned a message many years ago that your story, regardless of how hard it is to relive, to talk about, to go through those pains, your story is not meant for you. Your story is meant for someone else. Someone needs to hear your story. Someone needs to find hope because of your story. Someone is going to persevere because of your story. So when we downplay our stories because we think they're not good enough because somebody else had it harder, you don't know that. Don't write the end of a chapter. Tell the story. Let somebody else make their own conclusions.
Yes. I'll never forget doing a keynote one time when we had lost our son, which is another story, in a car wreck. And it was fresh and I was doing a lot of keynotes and I never mentioned it. And a friend came up to me, brother, and said, "You never talk about Jason. Why don't you do that?" And I said, "Because I don't want to make people cry." And this person said, "It's not about making people cry. It's about telling a story somebody else needs to hear." So that was great that you just kind of said the same thing. Well, let's talk about the future. Challenges you said are meant to be taken on. What is your challenge coming up? Can't wait to have.
Honestly, I'm pursuing this whole new idea of what tomorrow can be for me and my story and my brand and my leadership. I've realized my perspective is very unique. I have a lot of credibility to back that up as a professional of 25 years. So I've really gotten into keynotes. I've really gotten into putting together my workshops and my trainings, and I'm just excited to continue to inspire. It's really what I want to do. And I've never thought anything beyond the kitchen. I've always been in the kitchen. I've always been in the restaurants. I've always been a chef. Yeah. And I can't do that my entire life. So I'm at this crossroads right now where I'm starting to embrace this next chapter that is so unknown and I have no idea where it's going, but I'm exhilarated by the possibilities of what I'm writing and what I'm discussing and what I'm dreaming. Because it will become a reality sooner than later if I just, start to move forward with it.
And you do move forward one step at a time every day. We talked about that. Oh my gosh. Every day is a new page, right?
Every day is a new page.
Lots more books in you. Chef, you're kind to take time out in this busy day with your 3 restaurants. I'd like to leave you with just saying that our heart connected, and I so was with you when we had that pre-interview. and I appreciated you sharing with where your strength comes from. You want to share about that?
Yeah, my strength begins with my faith. God's been great in my life, even when I didn't want to listen, even when I wanted to run, even when I wanted to ignore. And He's never let go of my heart. And every time I feel like my life's out of control, it's because I'm trying to control it. I'm in the passenger seat right now, and I've let go of the steering wheel, and I'm along for the ride. And it's beautiful because great things are happening the more I put faith into God. And that's really the base of it, and then it's followed by family, and then it's followed by my work, which is food.
I thought that was great. Faith, family, and food. That's an alliteration. Faith, family, food.
And I screw it up every day.
Write a song about that. Faith, family, and food. I like that. So, Chef, where can people reach you? On the banner, it's going to show it, but you want to tell us when people come through Colorado Springs or not. We do know you've got a book, and it is on Amazon now, isn't it?
It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble, Ingram, anywhere you can get it. Audible's coming out. I recorded the Audible, so you'll get to hear my beautiful voice tell my story. And I'm chefbrotherluck.com and at Chef Brother Luck across the board. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, all the above. I'm at Chef Brother Luck.
So audience, don't hesitate to follow Brother Luck. And yes, that is your real name. Chef, thank you. Thanks so much. It was so fun to be with you. And you bet I will be following everywhere you are. Send recipes when you can, or find them, or tell me where to find them. And you bet I'll send everybody to Colorado Springs when they're there to see your restaurants. They're awesome. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely. Looking forward. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye for now. Now stay tuned, because I do have a Valerieism really quickly. And this is it. One step at a time, one foot in front of the other. I always end with a quick little Valerieism, and that's it. And really, we've talked about it. That's all you can do is just step up in the morning. It's a new page. Put one foot, I don't know how you get out of the bed, but I usually put one foot before the other. If you jump down and it's two, that's okay. But that's the point. Just step by step by step. Whatever it takes, just be sure it's moving forward. And that's it. Until next time, see you then.
Thanks for listening. To receive Valerie's voice, free monthly leadership tips, and to learn more about her leadership programs and coaching, visit her website, valerieandcompany.com. Next week, we'll be here again to inspire, engage, and equip you with teachable points of view from successful leaders who have been doing it right. Until then, lead authentically.